days, months. You know, if the backups are gone, complete reset, start from scratch, how do I deal with it? And I got to ask myself, beyond those, you can say, recovery issues, can software solve all problems? And the big issue here is, of course, software can do magic, but like in the Harry Potter world, if you give a bad wizard a piece of magic, he can also do a lot of damage. And I then ask myself here, how is it that all the magic that software can do fits together with people? Well, we are different, but I think we're very complementary. And I think when I look at what humans are really good at is taking up these tacit, implicitly defined problems and dealing with it. We don't actually know how to define it. Some nuclear physicist might be able to do that. Okay, we don't. So we try to figure out a solution. And then we let that solution evolve in small steps and move on. However, if we got it defined and we got explicit data structures and we know all this information that moves around the world, we can get software to deal with it. And this is where I find that humans, with our bias, with our adaptive understanding and fantastic brain as an organ, can actually play a very critical role in translating all that tacit, soft, intangible information into something that software can work with. Okay, now we got the process for that. Fine. But the processes here haven't really changed. Okay, down to earth, Bjorn. Yeah, we know. Good ideas. Business processes are still pretty much the same. Forecasting process is still the same. The scheduling process is still the same. However, our supply chain problems are actually quite explicit. When we say forecast, the question we are asking is not how wrong is it or you know, some post hoc analysis. No, we want to make it better. We want to improve the way we do stuff. And in that process, we're trying to solve an assignment problem, which also is very explicit, and it's a nice deal. I just kept the headline big so you could kind of keep that in mind. Often at Lego, I find people are trying to solve an allocation problem. Hey, wait a minute, what's the difference here? Allocation problem is how you cut a cake. Very simple. It says, if the slice of the cake is this big, and this is my scarce resource of supply, and I got to share that amongst my customers, this is how much your customer's going to get. But that does not look at the trade-off between the resources and the demand. It just says, when I cut the pie, I get a slice. And how incredible, with all the brilliant people that we got at Lego, they cannot breach that barrier of going from the one to the other. And why is that? It's because an assignment problem is a combinatorial hard problem to solve. And that then takes us to the next step and say, how do we then coordinate, like we had in the previous dialogue in here, when we have multiple people that need to agree something. One of these nodes could as well be the software that says, okay, forecast is going to be 7, right? We got the forecast is 7 now. Who would believe that? Nobody. Okay, I got some other people. I got a marketing person who's coming up with a proposal. I got something else. Now I'm representing the software here, and I'm still have to agree with 3 other peoples in that process of achieving alignment. That might be, you know, that might be tedious. How much does this S&OP meeting take? 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, a month? I can tell you directly that when Lego changes its master schedule, once a month, we have 8 supplier meetings with some of the key suppliers on our packaging material. One change, 8 meetings. Why is that? It's because it goes forth and back all the time. Say, oh, if you do that change, could you then do this? And then we want to do that, but that is badly aligned with the other one. And so on. And as we are more and more connected, the problem increases, because from 3 people, I only have 3 negotiations. If I go to 4 people, I get 6 negotiations. If I go to 5 people, I get 10. And at Lego, we have a lot of planners. I have 400 of them, actually, and that emerges into a complexity disaster. Now, complexity disaster is when I have 400 people doing negotiations, which technically results in 80,000 negotiations. And I can quote now, I can quote a supply chain director. The only reason why Walmart actually gets its stock is because we run out of time. That's where it ends up. The only reason why they get their stock is because we run out of time. We never achieve agreement, we never achieve alignment. And if you look at the curve of it, it's very beautiful. It goes from one side down here with the number of nodes involved in the negotiations and upwards. And if one of your business unit directors changes their KPIs, that impacts the whole network. That's why it's so difficult to achieve that agreement. Now, when I say 400 people doing planning at Lego is then just people, sitting with spreadsheets and making up magic numbers. No, I say a planner is any person who comes up with something that will intervene in the future. So if I have a customer service employee who sits there and her name is Carol and she says, oh, I got this order here. Hey, wait a minute, they forgot to order this on today. That's not on the launch. I'm just going to call him and say, yeah, okay, yeah, you missed that on the order. Of course, I'll put the SKU in for you. Good, done. Keys it in, presses F9, goes into SAP, we're up and running. Yeah. She already intervened with the process of what's going to happen somewhere in the future when that order has a due date for delivery. And this leads us further on. So, by using software, I think we can do a little bit of magic. But since Lego is also operating in 4 time zones, I got a problem. Because when I'm not there, I still need to represent my interests, my knowledge, my insight in the other time zones. So what do? I do this. I virtualize the sales and operations planning process, and I put in an agent that represents my focus in my absence. Keep in mind, we're trying to solve an assignment problem here, which is very hard computationally, so we need to understand what kind of technology enables us to do this. But now, at least I have a digital interface, and when I have some of those ideas, which are mine, thinking about how do I actually push the envelope on this or that change, I can just hand it over by me as a person having some tacit idea, making it explicit with the help of software, and then let the agents do that. And the benefit of software, and this is where the magic really comes, is they can do 2 million S&OP meetings in 20 seconds. The same amount of negotiations. But I need something to do that. And that was our challenge. So we started at Lego with saying, okay, here's a vision of how we would work. There's the real world, and some event occurs. That might be that single new order. It might be that all inbound shipping to Japan is stopped immediately because we do not know the risk situation and so on and so forth. Might be any event as harmless as just an order adjustment. Say, I want to order 2, not 1. Something as simple as that. That's an event in my world, and I need to be able to manage it. Then I let the software propose a plan. I let the planner revise that proposal. And depending on what consequences, the planner then gets a feedback saying, oh, you want to take all the SKUs of that category. Well, you can do that, but the consequence is that you're going to make it profitable at minus $50,000, and you're going to drop your average service level with 3 percentage points. Do you still want to do that? And then the planner sits F8, F9, F8, F9, commit or no, which one I pick? Okay, pick the right one. We get the constructive error messages. We sort that out. So, planner makes a decision about what needs to be committed, and the other things which just needs to be revised are being revised again and again. So the planner contributes to the evolution, which is suddenly possible when my S&OP process has been virtualized. I cannot do that in 24 time zones if it's not virtualized. However, and this, according to my research, affects every single provider in the industry, is that we are currently dependent on batch processing. And there's no batch processing in this loop. The batch processing is in a batch of 1. And which optimization methods are right for actually processing in a batch of 1? Well, that's where the fun in the research starts for us who wear geeky glasses and grow big beards and stuff like that, like Python programming or whatever it comes. We started looking at that. We said actually, hey, wait a minute. When we look at the optimization methods back in the 1950s, that was linear programming, integer programming, mixed integer, Name it, it was there. Then people found out, hey, when problems grow big, it takes forever to solve them. So let's do some Monte Carlo simulation instead. Fine, we did that. Found out that that was okay-ish as long as the environment was stable. But when the environment was stable, it didn't really work. So then some guys at Cambridge say, hey, wait a minute. There's this stuff that Darwin and the other building at biology, he figured out. He called it evolution. And maybe we could use that. So they invented genetic algorithms. And then later came particle swarm optimizers. What's really, really different is that when we see from the 1950s, the solution, the data that we had to process was complete at any point in time. But as we evolved towards the more, you can say, dynamic methods further down the line, we can actually catch even on updated data sets. We don't have to compute it top to bottom all the time.